Before summer's quite finished, why not make these delicious melt-in-the-mouth scones for you and your family? Let's get into it. So just to let you know, all the ingredients are listed in the description below. So the first thing I'm going to do is sift some self-raising flour. Please sift it up high. This is not a recipe for skipping the sieving bit of the flour, and up high, let it catch the air as it drops down. Then you want to put in some cubes of cold butter. The harder the better, really, because what you want to try and do now is rub them into the flour to get a breadcrumb effect, and try and make it as even as possible until you get fine breadcrumbs. And this is much easier to do with cold hard cubes of butter. It may seem a little odd to add salt into a sweet pudding cake like this, but it really is needed as a counterbalance, a counterpoint to the sugar. And it really just adds a piquancy if you have the sugar and the salt in there. So you saw I added baking powder, even though it's self-raising flour. Scones need to rise, they need to be light. And they need to rise so that they crack, because that is how traditional English scones are done. And the crack is how you break it open and serve it. So obviously we bind it now together with milk. You could use water, but it's obviously a pudding, so we want something a bit richer. And so we're going to use milk. And you just bind it together using a palette knife, or, you know, we were taught in school to use a palette knife. Of course, you can use anything you like to bring it together. And you'll know it's right when it picks up all the crumbs in the bottom of the bowl. Now, this is an important bit as well, is what you do not want to do at this stage is overwork this dough. Now, you're probably going to have to roll it out a couple of times, so it's really important to not overwork it now, because that will make it it'll make it sort of go hard. All the collagen will stiffen up, and it will lose its sort of softness. So the less you work it, the better. But you will need to obviously work it a little bit to bind it. So that's what I'm doing. Just a real slight knead, not like bread, just to make it come together and be smooth, ready for rolling. And that is it. Don't touch it again. Alright, so just lightly dust the top and the rolling pin, and then you're ready to roll out. And you need to roll it quite thick. If anything, I probably rolled it a little bit too thin in this video. You probably need to keep it a bit thicker. And one of the tricks also is you can use a slightly smaller cutting round. So, I mean, we've become so used to big fat portions of everything. You see these ginormous scones in cafes and things, but really, that isn't how scones were done. That's how they've become commercialised, but they're also quite hard and often quite stale. What you need to do is keep the dough thick and use a smaller cutter, so they're almost as tall as they are wide in diameter. Maybe not quite that tall, but that's the whole point, is you want them to grow up a little bit like a top hat and then split. And that is how you can break them apart with your hands. You know, they were a picnic item that you took in your lunch. You didn't have a knife handy or things like that, all the sophisticated equipment we have these days for dealing with every issue. But they're supposed to just, and then you spoon on the jam and the cream if you've got any. So then I'm going to lightly cover the top with milk, and we bake in a hot oven for 10 to 12 minutes and then serve. And I definitely recommend serving warm. You can serve them with butter. If you serve it with butter, you can really taste the salt sugar combination. It's absolutely perfect. And there's the crack there, you can see the crack. But obviously the traditional way is with jam and cream. So I'm just going to show you 3 ways now. This is how you break it open when it splits. So this is perfect. The only thing I would say about this is I wish I'd done them slightly thicker. Okay, but they are light as a feather and they are utterly melt in the mouth. So this is the first way, hot from the oven, just with butter. The butter melts into that airy, light body, and it is melt in the mouth. As I say, that you can really pick up the taste of the salt and the sugar, and it's just divine and so simple. Why not have this with a cup of tea, you know, out on your garden, in your garden, or on your patio, or wherever you well, I don't know why I'm trying to specify where you should eat them. You can eat them wherever you like. Okay, number 2 is just with jam, butter and jam. Okay, so you've put the butter on, it's all melted in. Now jam, make it a good quality jam. Strawberry or raspberry are the best, but of course it's entirely up to you. Okay, so that's number 2, just butter and jam. Totally delicious, totally melt in the mouth. These scones literally melt in your mouth. I'm not exaggerating. You must have a go at making them. Okay, and then the final version for making is the traditional one that you see in all the tea shops, and obviously whenever you see them presented in photos or whatever, they're always done this way. And there's a lot of argument about whether you put the jam or the cream on first. I've done it both ways, doesn't really matter. But what I don't do if I'm using jam and cream is I don't use butter, because that is just overkill. So I just use I'm doing jam here first, but I have done it the other way around. But I do prefer doing it this way around because it's very hard to put jam on top of cream. Normally you would use clotted cream. I don't have it in this. Clotted cream is the yellow and it's very thick and stiff. This is just an ordinary extra thick double cream, which is nonetheless delicious. And then you just blob it on top like that. And the other thing I like about having them slightly smaller like this is that they're almost bite size. You can eat these in 2 to 3 mouthfuls, and it's a much more elegant way. If you have a great big scone and you're trying to eat all this jam and cream, it just, oh God, what a mess it would make. So I prefer them small like this, and I don't know which way is best. I definitely prefer them with jam. But I'm happy with butter and jam as I am with cream and jam. All 3 ways are absolutely delicious to suit your taste. If you're not a sweet tooth person, just go for the butter. You'll love it. You must make these. Hope you enjoy this video. Please click like, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.